More Dems called for Biden's resignation. A lot of Black Democrats are kind of holding firm. Nancy Pelosi was non-committal during an interview not too long ago.
With millions watching and many people benefiting from this program called Indisputable, we just need 1% of the viewers to become a paid member so we can continue to bring this content to you. Now back to the show.
Here's some of the update.
You see all of those names and faces on your screen. The 4 additions are very significant because remember, this call that House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries convened actually had the top Democrats on the key committees join the call. So you're talking about guys like Jerry Nadler. This is somebody who is the top Democrat on the Judiciary Committee. You're also seeing Adam Smith, the top Democrat on the Armed Services Committee. You're seeing others as well following suit. And we're told, according to our sources, that on the call, those 4 expressed a lot of concern, specifically with Biden being the top of the ticket. They want to see another nominee. Other sources said that there was overwhelming support, for example, for Vice President Kamala Harris to step into that role. With others, should Biden step aside, certainly not all of them calling on him to do so. He did have a large defense, a fierce defense from members of the Congressional Black Caucus that were on the call. We're told Barbara Lee, Maxine Waters, 2 veteran lawmakers from California, they defended Biden on the call, as they have done publicly. We also saw a statement from another member of the Congressional Black Caucus who was not on the call, Frederica Wilson of Florida, but she criticized some of her fellow Democratic colleagues who are taking this moment to call on Biden to step aside, saying, like many others that I've talked to, that every single minute they talk about the need to replace Biden is a minute wasted that they could be talking about Trump.
I mean, this is just a cluster, you know what?
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have a plan for 2024 and on, so I just want them to enact that plan, and she's supportive of him staying on the ticket, and I trust her judgment. So if he needs to stay, he needs to stay. I think that people are more concerned about the aesthetic of what it means to be president, but Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have been working since they got into Congress, and I think we need to make sure that the people who are in office are the people who are doing the work.
I think they should just keep it the way it is and let her do her thing that she's doing right now. She's doing an awesome job, and I support President Biden 100%.
But you don't feel as though he should step aside. Why is that?
Because he's been doing a great job. Just because he's an older person and he had a bad debate does not mean that he cannot do the job. I mean, if every time I didn't do my job the right way, I got fired or chewed out, I wouldn't have a job.
But do you think that he should step aside?
No, I do not think he should step aside. He is our president. And I feel like he should remain in place until they internally decide whether or not we should change.
It really could be a cardboard cutout. I don't care who it is, as long as they can beat Trump. I hope it's the president. I'd be happy if it was the vice president. Certainly I'd be happy if it was her. I would be happy with any other candidate. That can beat Trump. That's all I care about.
Let me highlight some nuances here. When Biden won the Democratic nomination the first time in this modern context, he won because of the electability argument. Most Democrats felt as if he was the most electable to defeat an incumbent, Donald Trump. And I said back then, the electability argument is a slippery slope only because that argument lives only in the parameters of your thinking, nowhere else. So if that leaves, you have nothing else. Because if people think differently, the electability argument goes out the door. And that's what's happening now. But let's talk about constitutional crisis and constitutional remedy. Biden, on the other hand, he does not create a constitutional crisis, but Trump does. Biden, if for some reason is unable to serve out his full term, there's a constitutional remedy. It's called a vice president becomes president. But Trump on day one creates a constitutional crisis as soon as he is sworn in. That is a detriment to democracy. The issue with Biden has little to do with age, I believe, and much more to do with the cognitive performance that people have seen. The truth is, both of these individuals, Trump and Biden, are older white males, and they act like older white males. Donald Trump, holistically corrupt. I would vote for up and down. I would vote for Biden on life support before I ever voted for Trump. Period. But this back and forth is significant in the party, so much so that Donald Trump basically has shut the hell up. Why? Because the Democrats are basically doing the work. Let's put it up full mass. Either way, people were screwed. All right. Supporters from Congress to Hollywood warned that he needed to step aside for the sake of party and country. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi sent a clear signal. She's reluctant. The rebellion joined by another small minority of congressional Democrats, but appearing to run deeper, reflects the fear now surging through Capitol Hill that ex-President Donald Trump could conjure a GOP landslide that sweeps conservatives to a monopoly on power in Congress, the White House, and the Supreme Court. Now, I want you to look at these gentlemen and lady. Understand their political calculation about Biden. It's not simply about Biden, but also about their congressional district as well. They are looking at trends, polling data, and having conversations with people in their constituency. All day, lawmakers sent signals. Democratic Representative Richey, a member of the Congressional Black Caucus, which has backed Biden, told CNN, quote, "If we are going on a political suicide mission, then we should at least be honest about it." His fellow New Yorker, moderate Republican Pat Ryan, called on Biden to live up to his own vow to be a bridge to a new generation of leaders. Quote, "Trump is an existential threat to American democracy. It is our duty to put forward the strongest candidate against him. Joe Biden is a patriot, but he's no longer the best candidate to defeat Trump." Once again, that was your gateway into this, President Biden, the electability argument. The majority of Democrats actually wanted to vote based on polling data for somebody else, but they felt Biden was the most electable against Donald Trump. And at the end of the day, they made that decision to place Biden in the position due to electability. That electability argument, well, basically has been challenged, and I believe successfully. Now let's talk about the reality of the statement from Representative Torres. I'm not sure if he meant it this way, but it definitely seemed this way. You don't elect a president, you elect a president and a vice president. If Biden steps down, you have Vice President Kamala Harris. I would assume that she would be the favorite going into the Democratic convention to broker or negotiate the nomination. Wednesday evening, Vermont Senator Peter Welch became the first Democratic senator to publicly call on Biden to withdraw. Quote, "He saved us from Donald Trump once and wants to do it again, but he needs to reassess whether he is the best candidate to do so. In my view, he is not," Welch wrote in a Washington Post op-ed. All right? So you see it happening. Hollywood, insiders, progressives have been saying, well, damn it, y'all at least should have had an open and rigorous Democratic primary. But for everyone who's saying this, all the corporate Democrats who now are starting to see the light, you know, you all could have done something a while ago. You all could have definitely made sure that there was room for progressive voices inside of the party. But instead, you decided to silence those that spoke out against some of your normative candidates for political office. What about fundraising? Fundraising events for Biden canceled. Organizations, organizers for at least one group, fundraiser in Chicago. It was scheduled during the Democratic National Convention. That is the big day. They have decided not to proceed with the mid-August event. A source with knowledge of the discussion told CNN. In the immediate wake of President Joe Biden's debate performance, organizers paused conversations on planning the fundraiser until after the July 4th holiday to allow the dust to settle. This week, the host committee decided not to proceed with the event, citing a disagreement over how to proceed given the continued erosion of support for Biden's candidacy. While the lunch itself was expected to bring in at least close to 1 million, the mood of the participants, many of whom have given millions to Biden's 2020 campaign and associated entities, serves as a warning sign among some deep blue corners of the donor class. And speaking of, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, J.B., who has publicly supported President Joe Biden, even his own name has been floated as a possible replacement at the top of the ticket, was caught on a hot microphone on Wednesday, doubting the state of the race. Quote, I don't know what to say. Got to do what we have to do. I don't like where we are, but, and then the video cuts off. CBS Chicago shared the clip with Pritz's office, which said it sounded like he was talking about the presidential race. In related news, former President Barack Obama got a heads-up call from George Clooney. I told y'all this was going to happen. Clooney, that he was penning a bombshell opinion piece demanding President Joe Biden to step down, and he didn't try to stop it. Let's go back to Axelrod. When Axelrod went on national news and said what he said about Biden, I said then, Axelrod is still Obama's guy. He's still a very active political operative inside of the Democratic Party and the establishment right thereof. For Axelrod to say what he said about Biden on national TV, I said it then, it did receive the wink and nod from Obama. It doesn't happen without President Obama being aware of it, okay? Now we have more information and evidence of that. Politico reported Clooney called President Obama to warn him before the New York Times column was published on Wednesday. President Obama had been at the same Hollywood fundraiser where Clooney wrote he'd been shocked to see the president's mental decline. He said he witnessed, quote, the same man we all witnessed at the debate. Politico wrote that President Obama made no effort to dissuade Clooney from making his demand, despite publicly defending him after last month's stumbling debate performance. Quote, while Obama did not encourage or advise Clooney to say what he said, he also didn't object to it. People familiar with their exchange said, that's according to the outlet. Amid all that pressure comes a new ABC News Washington Post Ipsos poll headline, quote, Biden and Trump tied despite debate as 67% call for president to drop out poll. The poll showed Trump and Biden nodded within a point, even though 67% say Trump should drop out. That means that your challenger here is extremely, extremely flawed. That's what that means. So with damn near 70% saying he should drop out, he's still in a statistical tie with Donald Trump. That to me is not something to brag about on the Democratic side, nor is it something to brag about on the Republican side. As I said, you're screwed both ways. But here's the other thing. Polls are not predictions, but they are snapshots. When you put Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris against Trump, she is the top point getter still within the margin of error. They did the same with Hillary Clinton. I hope to God that doesn't happen, but they did the same with Hillary Clinton. They said if you put Hillary Clinton up, she is technically ahead also, still within the margin of error. In other words, almost everybody you put up against Trump actually is ahead of Trump, but still within the margin of error. Biden is tied. Now, here we are. Mr. Mayor, Biden said that he was going to be the bridge, right? He told us this in the beginning. I don't see the bridge happening. What say you?
There's no bridge to be had because we are a partisan nation. Let me say something real quick. A lot of some things, actually. I am disgusted with white Democrats willing to throw black people under the bus. And what I mean by that is suggesting that anybody switch the candidates right now in July, a couple months before people start voting for a presidential election, is a slap in the face for the people who gave you a presidential candidate, a president, and Biden. I'm frustrated with this entire process. We saw CNN allow Donald Trump to lie every 1 minute and 17 seconds and not fact check him in a debate. He was debating against a guy we know who stuttered since forever. We know Biden stuttered since we've been watching politics. And then after this, we see CNN running this narrative that the president has a bunch of Democrats that are against him. It's 9 Democrats that's spoken out, 9 elected Democrats spoken out. Here's the problem. These elected Democrats are not even a significant portion or representation of those who vote for Biden. It was white people that step in and saying things about Joe Biden. Black people are the majority of people, percentage-wise, who put that man in office. So if you don't hear black people calling for his resignation, and when they went to try to find voters, they couldn't find voters to say or agree with their knowledge. or their assessment. So I know America has this appetite for ridiculousness when it comes to politics, childishness when it comes to politics. But let me remind the world real quick. Barack Obama got killed. The greatest orator of our time got killed by Mitt Romney in his first debate. Killed.
Yeah.
JFK got killed. Looked ridiculous against Nixon. Ronald Reagan had Alzheimer's the entire time he was president. Got killed in his debates. Looked dumb against Carter. Still won. Bush created a whole word, strategy or something, when he was debating. Created an entire word and still won presidency. It is Democrats in our weak spine that has put us in this position, and now they're ready to jump ship. Rich white people, George Clooney and the likes, cannot determine who should be the nominee for a party that is existing off of the black vote, majority black vote. The base of the Democratic Party is still with this president. If you don't believe me, look out in the streets. When they try to find black voters to get it, even the young black voters said Biden is not their choice, but they're damn sure gonna vote for him over and over before they vote for Trump. So this idea that we can switch modes right now in July, when we don't have 100+ days before the election, because some people are gonna start voting in a couple months in some states. So when they're talking about people can switch mode and do this is white people who have the luxury to play politics while black people die from politics. The idea that you're gonna put a new face on the top of the ticket and win an election against Trump is beyond ridiculous. It is beyond ridiculous. And I'll just point out one more point, Dr. Richey. Every poll from 2012 all the way to now that had a front runner in July, this part of July, that person lost the presidential election. Barack Obama was behind. Hillary Clinton was ahead, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this idea that we're looking at polls right now as determinant, if we were looking at political history, we will say that the Biden base, because people are measuring excitement and enthusiasm. Excitement and enthusiasm is not a real marker of who's gonna vote. Black men have never been excited to vote, yet we still increase our participation in 2020. Percentage-wise and raw numbers, more black men voted for Joe Biden than they did Barack Obama. And it's not because of him, it's because of the work being done. So the idea that Biden was gonna be the reason black men turn out or black people turn out or the voters turn out is never the case. The reason people turn out is because of the issues, and that's what people keep telling you.
Some of this comes down to, I believe, missteps by the campaign. With the Biden campaign, I never would have had Biden debate Trump before he actually got the official nomination of the Republican Party. That to me set a bad precedent. You don't do that anyway. You legitimate this guy in ways he should not be legitimated, at least yet. He does not have the Republican Party nomination. The other dynamic is the messaging of the Democratic Party, which has been horrible for many, many years. Even on my radio show, dear brother, you would be hard pressed to find anything that says Vice President Kamala Harris or Biden Harris. Everything says Biden, Biden, Biden. That is a mistake on urban radio. Not only is she a woman of color, she's a woman. And the first woman to be Vice President of the United States of America. That needs to be echoed and a reminder in every single advertisement, which is not being done. So there are some missteps here. If they get some of this messaging right, I think some of those numbers start to creep back up. But rarely does the Democratic Party get the messaging right. But we are still right on most of the policies, obviously by way of the majority consensus of America. Okay, we'll bring you updates as they come. Guaranteed to still be a cluster, you know what.